All right, good afternoon,
Excellent.
everyone. Welcome to the latest installment of our Alumni Workshop Series. Our presenter today is Rob Levin. With over 20 years of experience leading growth strategies at organizations like Priceline, GE, WWE, and Nickelodeon, Rob combines cutting-edge insights with practical approach to marketing. A Marine Corps veteran and dedicated growth researcher, Rob has spent years mastering the art and science of driving measurable results. Whether you're new to growth marketing or looking to refine your strategies, this workshop will leave you with the tools and insights to take your efforts to the next level. Rob, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time, and the floor is yours.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Nick and Megan. Thanks for having me. And really happy to be here, guys. So yeah, let's jump right in because we got a lot to cover. So first of all, why should you listen to me? My name is Rob Levin, growth marketing consultant. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. And after my service, I spent time leading marketing and growth at some of the companies that Nicholas just mentioned, and also startups, private equity, and quite a few other capacities. So I also wrote a book on growth marketing. I think that was featured in the sign up. So Megan will send a copy to you folks after the call. And today we're going to talk about a growth strategy framework that I've created and used for every single growth and marketing effort that I've led in the past 15 years at least, including a campaign that ended up doubling conversions for WrestleMania when I was at WWE. And I'll tell the story about that. That's one of the biggest wins of my career. And after coming to the subscription service, WWE Network, I saw that the story behind that is I started looking at our data and I saw that growth at WWE was stagnating. You know, we started off when we launched really spiking high, and then it really leveled off. And so I started thinking about, okay, what do we actually do about this, right? And the framework that I'm going to take you through today is exactly what I used to come up with that strategy that ended up doubling subscriber acquisition. So I'm going to show that the document now. And this is also a talk that I gave at New York City Tech Week a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, to a lot of startups and things like that. I think what some of the things that I want to drive home here are, one of the key benefits of having a document like this is that it helps me. I like to use the phrase "see around corners," and that's a phrase that I learned at GE, and it really just means being super strategic and thinking about what could happen, right? And thinking about all the potential eventualities when you're planning out growth, right? If you're at a company where growth is stagnating, look, we all want more revenue. We all want more customers coming through the door, things like that. That doesn't just happen by magic, right? You have to go through, what I have found is you have to go through some strategic steps to make sure you're thinking about your growth efforts holistically. And the beauty of this framework is it's only 17 questions. To do this the right way, when I take clients through this, it usually takes about 90 minutes to go through the whole thing, even though it's just 17 questions. But if you're doing it the right way, that's how long it takes. The cool part is once you're done with this framework, you have all of the tools you need. You have all of the answers you need to execute pretty much every downstream activity, right? So once you go through this, absolutely everything gets much, much, much easier. Before we really get in, the other thing that I'll say is the questions here may seem very, very basic, but the power here is really in the combination of all of them. So when you combine the answers to all of these questions together, you end up with a strategy document that, like I said, it outlines everything you need to do to grow. It makes every activity after this much, much faster, right? I remember when I was in the Marine Corps, we often said slow is fast, right? We go slow to come up with a strategy, and that allows you to move much, much faster after that. Another key point that I want to throw out there is this: I've used this framework everywhere. I've used it at large companies like WWE and Nickelodeon. I've used it at startups that are going from 0 to 1. I've used it at startups that have been around for a few years but aren't growing at the rate that they need to anymore. I've used this for local businesses like pest control and medical offices. It works across industries. I've used it in ed tech, e-commerce, streaming, digital subscription, SaaS, and it works every single time. I've yet to come across an industry or a company or anything like that where this framework doesn't work. Okay. What I want to do now is run through the growth questions. And before I really get into it, I just want to say, if you have I really want you guys to understand this and internalize it. You'll get a copy of it, of course. But if you have questions while I'm talking, don't be afraid to interrupt me, right? I want to make sure these things really, really come through. So go ahead and jump in. All right. So question one, what's the goal for this campaign? So it's critical to define specific, measurable campaign or growth goals. These goals guide all the subsequent efforts and make sure that everybody is aligned. One of the key points here that I found is that when you clearly define this up front, it allows everybody on your team to make independent decisions without bugging you, right? I remember when I was in the Marine Corps, we talked a lot about commander's intent and things like that, and making decisions where I don't have to go ask Major Jones, hey, what do you want me to do here, right? I know what the goal is, so I'm just going to execute on my own. I don't care what size your business is, whether you're a behemoth or you're a two-person shop. I firmly believe that and have seen speed is a competitive advantage, and anything that allows you and your team to make decisions and execute faster gives you an edge over your competition. We all learned in the military about the power of fast, accurate decision-making, and you can't have that unless the strategy and the goals are crystal clear up and down the chain of command. All right, question two. So what is the company's overall growth goal, right? So, the previous question was really about what do we do in the near term? And then this question is really the overall growth goal. I've worked with clients where the overall growth goal is growth at all costs, right? They don't care about efficiency. They care, but that is a very clear priority too. I'm going to take very different actions in a campaign if I understand that I don't have to be as efficient as I do with another client that is very focused on EBITDA or something like that. So you want to make sure that you actually state this, because you don't want the goals for the campaign and the company's growth goals to be in conflict. Okay, your audience targets. So this is what I really love talking about this, because what I have found in my career, especially in consulting, is just about every business owner, every founder, every CEO believes that they have 100% nailed their target audience, their ICPs, who they're going after. And what I have found is that maybe 10 to 20% of people really have done so. They often don't go deep enough, and they don't segment them enough. So let's talk about who your ICPs are first. And I want to do a little bit of a deep dive on this part, because I think this is super, super critical to get right. You have to get this right. When I'm taking clients through this framework, what I talk about is an archery target, right? At the very center of that target, you have that small circle. That's ICP number one. These are the people that are going to get your logo tattooed on their arm. They love you so much. It pretty much doesn't matter what you put out there, what the product is or how you position it. They love you no matter what. Ring two of that target are people who will pay $100 for a t-shirt with your logo on it, but they don't quite love you enough to get a tattoo, right? Tattoos are forever. So they're not quite there. Ring three are people that will take a free t-shirt. They like you, but they're not paying $50 for a t-shirt or $100 for a t-shirt, and they're certainly not getting a tattoo with your logo on it. The point of this is you have to approach each one of these ICPs very differently. You have to talk to them differently because of their based on the affinity that they have to your product and to your company, but also in what awareness stage they are with you, right? Do they know your product exists, right? I work with some clients that are, I have one client that I'll talk about briefly. They are literally inventing something that does not exist. And so what I have found, one of their challenges is, and what we're doing in messaging is we have to do some explanation, right? And say, hey, here's a problem that you don't even know you have. We solve for that, right? And what we're getting from the market is essentially, oh, I thought this other company did that. And we have to take the time to explain in our messaging, no, actually they don't. And this is something that only we can solve for. So this is why it's so important to really nail the ICPs, because you have to make sure you understand who exactly you're speaking to, so you can speak to them in a relevant way. Yeah, question? Sorry, I thought I heard something there. So next, the other thing I want to talk about is the anti-persona. So the anti-persona is, who are you not talking to, right? And one of the things that I take clients through and I talk to folks about is part of good strategy is trade-offs, right? The anti-persona are a target market that may be valuable to you. They're just not as valuable to you right now as ICP1, ICP2, ICP3. So you have to, I strongly encourage you to say, look, this bucket, this section of the market, yes, they are important to us. We're not focusing on them for Q4. And here are the strategic reasons why. Probably the most common mistake that I see with clients, with founders, and people that are trying to run growth is when I ask them, who is your product for? They tell me everyone. There are very, 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 very few products in the market today that are truly for everyone, right? Even something like Amazon, which is pretty ubiquitous, not everybody's on there, right? You know, there is a section of the market that Amazon doesn't actively try to serve, right? That's your anti-persona. So really figure out who are your core ICPs, who are you going to solve for, and who are you not going to solve for. Okay. The next question is, what's their use case and pain point? And that's the question you're going to ask for each one of these ICPs. And what I say to folks is, the customer has to care about the problem before they can care about the solution. And again, each one of these target markets may have a very different problem. So for example, the people that are getting tattoos, the people are at the very center of the bullseye, their pain point may be status. And this makes me think about people who are the Apple fanatics, right? You know, if you're sitting in a tent for 3 days to wait for the latest iPhone, you're the center of the target. You're the Apple tattoo person. For you, the pain point is it's a status thing, right? You want to show people that you got the iPhone 25 or whatever before anybody else. That's your pain point, and that's what you want to message in your marketing. If you're a busy parent, maybe you're in ring 3 or 4, right? You don't care about the status. You don't necessarily care so much that to get the Apple logo. You just need a reliable phone that's going to help you manage your life, your kids' lives, sports, all that good stuff, right? That's why you spend so much time. That's why I encourage people to spend so much time really nailing the ICP, because you have to understand the pain point at an emotional level, right? Because when you're creating messaging and landing pages or ad copy, sales scripts, things like that, your goal is to stir emotion. So you really have to dive deep into there to understand, how do I stir emotion in this person that I'm talking to? Another example for that WWE campaign that I referenced earlier, our ICP was net new subscribers to our subscription business who were lapsed fans. So a lapsed fan is, the way that we defined it, is somebody that used to watch WWE maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe when they were in high school or something, but they had never subscribed to our subscription product. And from this framework process, I developed the hypothesis that since WWE is storyline driven, they didn't know why Roman Reigns was wrestling Brock Lesnar, right? Like, what's the history behind the beef there, right? And that, I assumed, or I made the hypothesis that lack of knowledge was the key barrier to signing up for WWE Network. I remember telling my manager, look, it's like walking into a movie halfway, right? I mean, if you don't know what's going on, why would you buy, right? Like, why would you give us $10 a month for WWE Network? It just doesn't make sense. So what I said was, we need to lead this target audience down a path, a nurturing path that tells the story behind why they were wrestling each other, and then nurture the audience's interest from a top of funnel perspective, then mid funnel, and then bottom funnel, right? Only after we told that story, then we could ask them to subscribe and give us money. That's the thinking that I had there. So that's the pain point. You get back to, one other thing on pain point as well. Something that I learned as a product manager that was a very important experience for me in my career is talk to your customers. I think you'd be very, very, very surprised if you have those conversations and ask them, why did they sign up for your product? Why did they purchase the product? What do they use it for? Things like that. I don't remember where exactly I read this, but I was very moved by a story that I heard about the Swiffer. Everybody remember, every one of us probably has a Swiffer mop in their house, right? So the story that I remember is that there was a team at Procter and Gamble that went into people's houses to just watch them clean, right? They just wanted to gather intel and watch how they clean their houses. The original intent, what they were going after at first, was to find a way to make better paper towels. What they actually found was people were wetting paper towels. We've all done this, right? You wet the paper towel and then you're on your hands and knees picking up dust and bits on the floor. They had this revelation and poof, Swiffer was born. So you want to, I encourage you to talk to your customers to find out what your ICPs are truly trying to solve for. It might be very, very different from what you think, and you get a lot of good intel from that. Okay. Next is the why, and this goes to, I was talking a little bit before about the goal of stirring emotion in the people that you're talking to when you're creating a marketing campaign or working on growth. So why are they trying to solve this problem? I spent 3 years as a Marine Corps recruiter, and we always talked about the why behind the why, right? When I was talking to a kid and saying, hey, why are you interested in joining the Marine Corps? And they would say one thing, and I would keep asking, why is that important to you, right? And eventually you ask a couple times and you get to a real core emotional need that they have, right? And then once I can address that emotional need, and you should be doing this in your marketing, it's a much more powerful message, right? So the example that I would give is back to the Swiffer example. Those people who are wetting the paper towels and picking up the bits on the floor, they're not just looking to pick up bits off the floor, right? That's not the end goal. They wanted their house to look nice and feel clean, right? That's the emotional impact. That's the why behind the why. Understanding that powerful emotional drive behind why they're trying to solve this pain point gives you really, really powerful tool for creating your marketing messaging. In this example, you're not just going to say, hey, Swiffer helps you get the bits up off the floor. You're going to say, or I would say, Swiffer gets the bits up off the floor so you can have a clean house for you and your family, right? That sentence stirs more emotion, and that's exactly what you want in your marketing. Okay. The next question. So potential objections here, right? So this is especially helpful when you have a face-to-face portion of your sales cycle. So if you're in, if you have salespeople, for example, right, and you have to write scripts for your SDRs, things like that, you want to be prepared for these potential objections. Let's say you have a high ticket item, right? Let's say you're a Salesforce, right? And your package is going to cost the company $1 million a year, something like that. Cost is a factor, and getting that approved by the head of IT is a factor, things like that. So you want to list these potential objections so you can address them proactively in sales scripts, landing pages, ad copy, things like that. Okay, next, the value proposition for your targets. So this is where you clearly communicate how your product solves their core emotional problem, right? What I tell people when I'm working with clients, but also when I'm mentoring young marketers, is I see marketing as a real conversation. I think it's very easy today in 2025, right? Everything's digital marketing. It's very easy to forget that there is a real person reading your landing pages, reading your collateral, things like that. You have to remember the human when you're coming up with these things. Because it's like, just think about it like a conversation with a real person. So if someone in your target audience comes up to you and says, hey, John, my problem is X, what would you verbally say to them? And that's what I would encourage you to write in this box here, right? This question here, the answer is not marketing speak. It is, what would you actually say to a person if they were sitting across from you at a desk, right? So that's what you would talk about here. Okay. Next one is past marketing efforts. So what have you done in the past to try and grow? What have you done that has worked? and what have you done that has not worked and why, right? So you just want to make sure that you're learning from past experiences and avoiding, you want to avoid repeating the same ineffective tactics. But also it bears some research to figure out why were those tactics ineffective, right? So for example, something that I see small businesses do very, very, very often is they give up on certain paid marketing channels way too early. So Facebook, for example, especially is a good example where somebody spends $500 in a month and they say, oh, the cost per acquisition was terrible. It didn't work. That is not true. Almost 100% of the time, you just didn't spend enough and you didn't give it enough time. So the way a lot of paid marketing channels work is they run through machine learning. So machine learning requires a lot of data points in order to get better. And what you'll see is if you gave it another month, that efficiency keeps increasing because you're giving it more data points and there's more learning there. So that's just a quick aside. So don't be too quick to give up on certain channels. Next, so number 3, this one, I love this question as well, because a lot of people will ask, okay, what's our competition? Who are our competitors? And really the answer, or the question that you should be asking is, what are our alternatives? Alternatives instead of competitors. So to fully understand what you're up against, yes, you want to list the competitors in the traditional sense. So when I was a Marine Corps recruiter, my competitors were the Army recruiters, the Air Force, and the Navy recruiters. But I also had to be ready to speak to alternatives. So I was an officer, so I was on college campuses trying to get kids to join the Marine Corps after they graduated. My alternatives were not only the other military branches, but also med school, graduate school, getting a regular job, right? I spent a lot of time working in streaming subscriptions. So my alternatives were also Hulu and Netflix, but also watching a basketball game, reading books, playing video games, things like that. So you want to figure out what alternatives your audience segments have to your specific solution. So you have some good intel that you can use to help write marketing copy, sales scripts, again, things like that. You want to be prepared for that. Okay. Next, something that really dives into the emotional aspect here is the vision of success for the ICP, right? So you want to describe here, what does a huge win look like for your ICP? If their pain point, for example, is running payroll is really hard, it's complicated, takes up a lot of my time, you want to explain to them what it looks like when your solution solves for that, right? You want to create a powerful mental image of that essentially conveys, hey, buy my product and this is the end state, right? Like think about this end state where everything is solved and you're happy because your problem is completely solved, right? How is your target audience going to feel about having fewer headaches about payroll and more time? What will they be able to do that they couldn't do before because your product came in and solved their problem, right? You can use that in ad copy. It's extremely powerful. Sales scripts, landing pages, again, things like that. If you can really tell that story about how you can solve their problems and have them envision what life looks like after you solve their problems, that's extraordinarily powerful. Okay. Challenges to a purchasing solution. So I touched on this before, right? If you're a Salesforce or I remember at WWE, we used an analytics package that was something like $500,000 a year. That's a big ticket item, right? So you want to identify that barrier to purchase. It might be cost, it might be time, it might be regulatory, right? Things like that. I spent a fair amount of time working in ed tech. And so in ed tech, especially if you're speaking to K through 12, there are a lot of hoops to jump through, right? If you're selling to a school, you're selling to a university, very long sales cycle. You have to convince a lot of people that your solution is safe, it's effective, et cetera, et cetera. You want to list all these challenges here so you can be prepared for those things. Okay. Next question is about the buyer's journey. So the buyer's journey is a fun marketing term for all of the different steps that somebody takes to buy something, right? So I bought a car about 1.5 years ago, and my buyer's journey was I started on Google and I said, hey, most reliable new cars under X dollars. I forget exactly what it was, right? My Google search took me through a couple of different things. And I said, oh, you know what? I play hockey. I'm a goalie. I need a car that can fit all of my hockey equipment. But I also don't like SUVs. I don't like being high up. So what are my options there, right? More Googling, more researching, things like that. I see cars on the road. That's part of my buyer's journey. It was like, oh, that's a hatchback. That looks nice. Like that might work out for me, right? Then I went and visited some dealerships and I saw the cars and I did some test drives. And then I went to Car and Driver magazine online and did some research there. All of that is part of the buyer's journey, right? You want to understand what are the steps that someone has to take to purchase your product. Because again, if you're at the awareness level, right, where somebody has never heard of your product before, never heard of you before, you're going to talk to them very, very differently versus at the end of the buyer's journey where, they have all the information they need. They just have a couple more questions, right? You have to understand where this person is on the buyer's journey and prepare for all of that, right? Because you're going to have potential customers that are at the awareness stage. You're going to have potential customers that come in at, yeah, I pretty much know what I want. And I'm just looking to nail down a couple details. So you want to lay this out so you understand how to speak to your different ICPs at different stages of the buyer's journey. Buyer's journey. Where do they hang out? So where do they hang out, it essentially means thinking about what channels you're going to use to reach these people, right? So for example, I'm a marketing consultant. I'm targeting C-suite executives. I'm targeting startup founders. I'm targeting small businesses. To help them with their marketing and growth challenges, which means I'm not going on TikTok trying to find these people, right? Because how many CEOs are going on TikTok looking for, or in the context where they're going to be interested in a marketing consultant, right? I usually start on LinkedIn, or I go to my Chamber of Commerce meetings and things like that, where I can shake somebody's hand, learn about their business, and talk about how I can solve their problems, things like that. Okay. Now we start getting into some of the summarization of some of the things that we were talking about before. So what's the key message that we want this person to take away, right? Again, this is not the answer to this question here in this framework is not the marketing speak. It's really what do you want them to take away after they experience your marketing, after they experience your landing page, after they experience the conversation with your sales rep. What's that one key message that conveys to them, I can solve your problem, right? How are you going to say that? So that's what goes here. It may seem, so the next part, right? Like it may seem super obvious, but what action do we want them to take? I still encourage you to write this down. And by the way, when I say write this down, I truly mean put this out, write it down. I have found that I'll speak for myself. Some of my best thinking happens when I'm writing versus typing something out. So I do encourage you to print this out and actually write this down every time you're working on a new growth initiative. So for that action that we want them to take, what exactly do you want them to do? For that WWE campaign that I talked about before, for us, it was for them to keep reading this content that we were feeding them so that we could eventually ask them to buy. So we had to make that very, very clear. Next, what action do we want them to take? How do we measure results? So how do we measure results is really just kind of administrative, right? So one of the things that I've seen throughout my career is that sometimes people get bogged down in, well, Google Analytics says this, but this other analytics tool says that. So it's just better to align up front on what tool you're going to use to measure success. So, okay. This is maybe one of my favorite questions in the framework here. So the pre-mortem. So if this idea came partially from my time in the Marine Corps, but also from an incredible book that I read on human behavior, decision making, things like that, how the brain works, and it's called Thinking, Fast and Slow. Thinking, Fast and Slow, written by an economist. Very challenging read. I think it took me 6 months to get through the whole book. Sorry about that. I think it took me 6 months to get through the whole book. Well worth it. It's extremely dense. It's not light reading, but it was fantastic. But the idea of the pre-mortem reminds me of In the Marine Corps, we talked about MP-COA, the enemy's most probable course of action. So this is similar. You want to identify potential pitfalls in your plan so that you can avoid them, right? So what I tell clients is, let's do a thought experiment. It's 6 months down the line. This campaign or this growth effort or this experiment, whatever, was a massive failure. What are the top 2 to 3 reasons why it failed, right? Think about the most likely reasons why this campaign will not work. And now you'll know exactly what to do to adjust your plan to specifically avoid this outcome, right? So that's what you're looking for. Okay, so this is the framework. So to sum up, this is the framework I've used in every campaign I've created in the past 15 years. I've used it at companies large and small, startups. Hey, sorry about that. Let me reshare. There we go. Sorry, when did I lose you? Did I lose you just like 10 seconds ago? Yes, all right. Yeah, so to sum up, basically this framework works everywhere, right? I've used it for the past 15 years of my career. Huge companies, small companies, pest control companies, like this works absolutely everywhere. Some of the key questions that I really want you guys to focus on here and nail is the deep dive on your target audiences and ICPs. That's absolutely critical. And again, what I have found is that so many people feel like they've nailed it, but they haven't really gone deep enough, at least in my opinion. Another key question that I think is critical is, what are your alternatives, not just your competitors? And also that pre-mortem, right? If this campaign or growth effort is going to fail, why will it fail? Where will it fail? Figure that out so you can avoid that, right? Okay. That's what I got for you guys. I am happy to answer any questions about the framework, wrestling. What do you guys got?
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Rochelle.
How are you doing?
Outstanding. Thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you for asking. Turning down my volume because I heard a little bit of an echo. So, I, it, you are speaking on like literally. I've been listening to. I think it's scaling up. Um, and you are like literally right where I have been planning today. Like, and my question is, when it comes to the campaign, to the campaigning, h- how long should campaigning be? Where do you begin when it comes to um, identifying like the I see the framework and I want to implement this framework, but like where do you begin with implementing the framework?
Start at the beginning. And I don't know if you caught it at the very top, but what I say to people often is, let me go back. What I say to people often is, you look at these questions and they're deceptively simple, right? What's the goal for this campaign? Easy, right? I mean, getting more conversion volume, right? But what I would say is, this whole framework should take you at least 90 minutes, you and your team, 90 minutes, or if it's just you, to go through the whole thing, right? Because that's, if it takes you 90 minutes to 2 hours, then you thought deeply enough about all of these questions. Because if you say, well, actually, let's do this. Would you be comfortable, and you don't have to be, do you want to tell us about your business and what you're trying to achieve?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go for it.
The I own Wait SLTS, which is a GRC consulting cybersecurity business. The product that is in development is Morbid Shield GRC AI. It's a GRC platform that will prevent and mitigate cybersecurity breaches with satellites within the satellite industry.
Got it. And so going back to question one, are you 0 to 1? Like, do you have customers right now? Or are you building a product that is not launched yet? Or are you launched? What's your posture right now?
I have been creating a team to help with the development of the platform. It has been myself, but grateful to programs like this. Thank you, Nick. And hey, Megan. Sorry. But I am in the development of the product.
Yeah, got it. So what you want to do is align your campaign with launch day, right? And so if you told me I'm launching on, you're not going to do this, but January 1st, right? What I would do if you were a client is I would take you through this, and then I would use this document to identify, okay, what is the messaging going to look like? What are the channels we're going to use? We need to make sure we have landing pages in place for each ICP, for example. So, you definitely want different versions of landing pages based on the different people who are going to buy your solution, right? So things like that. But I would make sure that everything is in place for January 1st. So the problem that I see with a lot of clients is they think marketing is they have certain preconceived notions about what marketing is, and they think it's going to be much easier and faster than it actually is. And what I hope to convey in this document is there's a lot of thought, strategic thought, and science that goes into putting a marketing plan and a campaign together. So if you're launching January 1st, you might be a little behind. So I would encourage you to line things up, because it's probably going to take you, going from 0 to 1, starting from scratch, it's going to take you 3 to 6 months to really nail that MVP out of the gate marketing and growth effort. Because there's a lot that goes into, for example, like, I don't know what GRC means, but it sounds very, very impressive. But I assume this is going to be a long sales cycle. There's lots of different people that you're going to have to convince. And so you are going to have marketing messaging, sales scripts, presentations, et cetera, for each ICP at different stages of the funnel. That's my assumption. I heard of GRC AI for the first time in my life 2 minutes ago, but is that helpful?
Extremely. Governance, risk, and compliance.
All right. Thank you. All right. Good. Yes. So when is launch day for you?
2027.
Oh, you got plenty of time.
Sir, yes, sir.
Still, I would say it's easy to forget about this stuff, and I would argue that, and again, I have experience as a product manager when I was at WWE. Go through these questions with your team, because I think there's value in making sure that everybody is aligned, because you may find that the people that are actually writing your code think one thing, and 80% of the company thinks this thing, right? So you might as well go through this and make sure everybody's on the same page as they're building, because your feature set may change based on who everybody thinks the ICPs are. So I would just state it out very, very clearly. Look, when I was in the Marine Corps, you know how it is, right? You got some smart Marines, you got some Marines that are not so smart. You still have to lead all of them, and you need to get all of them on a path to accomplish the mission, right? So I'm not saying anybody in your team is not smart, but the point is, make sure everybody is in lockstep and understands what the mission is, who you're serving, because that can help your product people build this feature and not that feature. Is that helpful?
Absolutely. And I thank you. Thank you, Rob.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I have a quick question. Hi
Yeah,
Rob. Thank you first of all for this information. I appreciate it. My name is
absolutely.
Danny Shepard, and I'm starting a clothing line called High Water Collection for the tall girlies that are 5'8" and above and can't fit the clothes that America and the rest of the world wants to give them. So I'm going to
Love
give
it.
them the option of having, a fashionable style at a decent cost. So I wanted some of the stuff that you hit on with Rochelle. Yes, it's A. Um, so you're basically saying like because I don't have a launch date, right? Because I'm at the mercy of these manufacturers who I'm juggling through
Yeah.
right now. And so but basically because thank God for the UConn EBV program, I was able to connect with a mentor on SCORE, and he basically said what you said is that, start creating that brand awareness right now. So that's something that you're in agreement with even if I don't know the launch date of right now, start making a campaign like that's focused on like brand awareness and stuff?
No,
No.
is the short answer to that question. But I think a couple things. Number one, first of all, I'm glad we're recording this because Nicholas, Megan, what Danny just said, I think is a great quote for you guys to promote your organization because you're doing a lot of good. That's thing one. Thing two is I am an enormous fan of SCORE. I would be nowhere near where I am today with my consulting business without my mentor. I meet with him twice a week sometimes. He is freaking fantastic. So, Rochelle, Radu, if you're not involved with SCORE and you don't have a mentor, go correct yourself. They are amazing. All right. So the other thing that I would say, Danny, is uh, I'm a sample size of one. Yes, I've been in marketing for 25 years. That doesn't mean I'm right on this. My concern is, uh, from what I heard you say, my concern is that if you start a brand campaign today and you're not launching for 6 months, you can't start and then stop, right? This has to be something that it starts, it keeps going, right? So I would say give some thought to your bandwidth and prioritize the activities that you have in front of you. If you can spare 2 hours, I don't know how much time it would take you. If you can spare 2 or 3 hours a week on brand campaigns, social posting, et cetera, and you have the you have the bandwidth for that, fine, go for it. But I would say you can't start and then stop, because if somebody starts following you and then they see that they're only seeing a post once a month or a piece of content or an email, once every 6 weeks, it's that's not a net positive for you and your brand, right? It doesn't feel real. It doesn't create the emotional connection if the outreaches are so sparse. Again, sample size of one, I could be absolutely wrong. Brand marketing is outside of my circle of excellence. It's in my circle of competence. I can do it, but I'm not awesome at it. Does that make sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense. I don't want somebody who's going to be in and out of my life. I want consistency. So
Yeah,
yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, yeah.
Thank
I think
you.
I think what you're doing is great, though, right? Like and this, what I think of when you talk about where your mission is and what you're doing is, look, everybody wants to look good and feel good about how what they're wearing, right? And I know that when I put on my favorite jeans and I look in the mirror, I'm like, still got it.
You
Uh,
better let them know, Rob.
right. So it's like, hey, I'm feeling lots of big feelings with my birthdays this weekend, and I'm like, damn, am I really that old now? It's like, okay, but hey, I work out every day and I put on the jeans and I'm like, yeah, still got it. So yeah, I think what you're doing. Oh, it looks like this crashed out. What you're doing, I think, is uh, you know anybody that's helping people feel good about their lives and how they look or how they feel. Uh, that's a net positive, right? And I feel like in uh, with the way things have been going lately, anything that's a net positive is certainly a really good thing. So I commend you for doing that.
Thank you.
All right, Radu, you're the only one that hasn't asked a question, so now I'm picking on you.
So I'm in a unique. This is actually really good as far as like structuring my thoughts and everything. I'm in a unique situation because I started my business over a year ago. I've been in business for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And so what's really beneficial as far as like going through this exercise and figuring this out is because um, I'm at a point right now where I got to decide. So I want to operate a Mr. Handyman franchise, um, and I think the next step that I need is to find a uh, estimator. But he's got to be it's got to be something that's a hybrid initially, and so yeah, this is going to be really good as far as like grabbing all the info you got here and figuring out how to well, one, how to identify the right person, but then also, set them up for success
Yeah.
and ensure that they're set up for success so we can achieve the goals that we want to set and then grow.
Yeah, I love that too. And one of the things that I wasn't necessarily expecting to find in my consulting practice, but I have found, is part of the value of going through this exercise and having this document with all these questions laid out in there is not just valuable for marketing. It's not just valuable for the marketing team. It is valuable for everybody across the organization. Because it's funny, what I hear, something I've heard from almost every single client that I've had is we don't have a strategy, right? Like people don't know what they're doing, like why they're doing what they're doing, and having these questions answered provides that, right? And again, going back to one of the first things I said, if everybody knows why they're doing X, right, or what the goal is, right, just something as simple as that, it allows you some freedom because Joe or Sally or whoever, they can make decisions without having to call you and saying like, hey, like, should I do this or should I do that, right? And what ends up happening is you're like, yeah, do this, obviously, right? But it's not obvious to them, right? And not to insult anyone's intelligence, right? But it's like, somebody that's working for you, they're smart, they're capable, all these things, but they don't know what you want unless you specifically say it, right? And a lot of times, something that I've learned in business and in personal life too is uh, the value of straightforward, clear communication, right? And I'm so grateful that I've got the best wife in the world, and like we just talk to each other, right? And I say to her, I really like it when I really like it when you make me pumpkin coffee. I don't know. I'm making it up, right? But like, it's like, if you don't say it explicitly to somebody, how are they supposed to know? So if you tell them explicitly, hey, we're chasing revenue this quarter, right? Efficiency is fine. Like we can break even, or we can be a 1.1 to 1 LTV to CAC. That's fine. But we really need revenue this quarter. And here's why, right? I just find it's so, life gets so much easier when you're very clear and candid with people.
Yeah, so I'll tell you another thing too, Rob. What really resonated. So it's funny, and I'm jaded. I don't know when I'm going to get over this, but I've been to both Iraq and Afghanistan, and I don't really subscribe to the strategy thing, but I do love a commander's intent because everything is purpose, right? Expand the
Yep.
purpose. Why are we doing this? Give me some key tasks and give me an end date, and then I can work with that. The whole strategy thing. I got to tell you, I was part of 2 losses, and I'm not really. It's going to take me a while before I buy anything strategy. So that's where I am right now.
That's fair. That's very fair. Look, what I tell people often, and something I had to learn in my career, because I, for whatever reason, I'm a sample size of one, right? I've had a lot of success in my career, but that doesn't mean I'm going to have success next week. It doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, right? But now, 25 years into a marketing career, it's fairly rare that I make a meaningful mistake, right? So, but that's it. It happens, right? So you gotta take all the information in, take it with a grain of salt, keep what works, toss what doesn't, and keep moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. Agreed.
Yeah. Cool. What else, guys?
You know what else? You know what else? had me sold on your presentation too, because I'm a firm believer in simplicity, and so I was going through therapy for my TBI, and it was funny
Yeah.
with my therapist. I was like, "Oh, this is really good," and I'm taking notes and all this stuff, and I'm clinging to every word she's saying. And she said, "You know, I had a patient who said, well, I could Google all this and do it, right? Just like your presentation. I can Google all this and do it. When have you done it? I've never done it. Okay, then.
Exactly.
Take
It's so funny. My
execute.
Yeah. It's just so funny that you say that, because I was talking to my wife last night, about just my own marketing strategy for my consulting business. And I talked to her about, I'm putting out these videos on LinkedIn, how to solve specific marketing problems, this and that and the other. And she says to me, "Are you giving away too much?" And what I told her was, no, because I'm telling people exactly how to solve this problem or solve that problem. I guarantee you 99% of people are not doing it. Many reasons why, but I'm confident, right? Like this framework, like I said, I mean, doubled subscribers for WrestleMania year over year. That's millions and millions and millions of dollars in incremental revenue. It's extremely powerful. I have no problem giving it away, because you can try to go through it yourself, right? But if it's much more powerful if you have someone like me with 25 years of experience growing a company helping you through it, right? So
agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one more question.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you said this at the beginning or not, because I was late. I'm sorry, I apologize. But are there any like tools or platforms that you might recommend to like track performance of a campaign, so we can like measure and the whole KPI jits?
Ooh, that's an enormous discussion. I could spend probably 5 hours straight talking about
Oh Lord.
things like incrementality how would I cover that? First, I would start with a growth model. A growth model is a fancy term for a spreadsheet that tracks all of your acquisition activities, all your retention activities, all your monetization activities.
Okay.
Break them out into component parts, each one of those activities, right? So for a referral program, for example, you want to track how many emails did I send to people asking them for referrals? How many referrals did they produce? So that gives you your referral rate. Breaking everything up, and then what you can do is diagnose breaks in those formulas. So then you can say, oh, okay, if we send more emails, I expect to get X more referrals, something like that. But you want to start with a growth model. Acquisition, the same thing, right? Google Ads, I'm spending $1,000 a month. I'm getting this number of impressions, this number of clicks, this number of this number of that. So start with the growth model. What I would also encourage you to do, again, I could talk to you for 5 hours about how paid marketing works and who to trust and who not to trust. The short answer is don't trust anything that Google tells you. Any recommendation that Google Ads says, don't trust it. Most of the recommendations that Facebook tells you, don't trust it, because they give themselves a lot more credit. If you don't know the ins and outs and the levers to pull and the settings to put in there, Facebook will tell you every conversion you got last week was generated by Facebook, right? So take it all with a grain of salt is what I would say. It's directional, not accurate, if that makes sense. But start with your growth model. Don't trust the big platforms. You need them, but you can't trust them. Google Analytics is much less useful than it used to be. Is that helpful? I don't know what channels you're using, but
No, that is really helpful, because that's the first thing that comes up is Google Analytics when they tell you about tracking your performance and stuff. But
yeah, like I said, Google Analytics is necessary, but it's a poor product. It used to be 10 times better. I don't know why they made it so terrible, but it used to be 10 times better, but it's better than nothing. I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for you there. Every single company I work with tells me their analytics stinks and they don't know what to do about it. And there just aren't good answers unless you're ready to pay $1 million a month, $1 million a year for, some of these advanced analytics packages.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't help with that one more.
No, you did. You did.
Oh, good. I know we're at time. What I would say is First of all, thanks for listening to me talk for an hour. I appreciate it. You didn't have to show up and do that. So I appreciate you showing up. I hope some of this helped. Megan, you're sending out my book, my LinkedIn, right? My contact info. Happy to have more conversations with you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for everything today, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. This is fun. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you.